Let me come to Mr. Nwanko here. Mr. Nwanko, you've been following the amendment and the development of the electoral law in Nigeria, the latest development and the action of President Muhammadu Buhari. How does this come to you? It does appear the perception out there may be that the president is not willing to assent, but some of the reasons he gave for not assenting to it, are they valid to you?
I think that if the president points out issues related to clerical, typographical errors and omissions likely to give a different interpretation other than the meaning that is intended, then the president has the right to raise the objections that have been raised. But beyond that, I worry, and I don't think that if there has been any if the president has refused assent for reasons that can be immediately corrected, that's an issue. I think the National Assembly has a responsibility to then come back and address this as quickly as possible. The elections are guided always by the law that is prevalent at the given time that it comes into effect, especially if INEC has not taken steps regarding the specific activities that are mentioned in the amendments. What bothers me, and I think what bothers Nigerians, is the amount of time it takes for the president to make his observations. This bill was sent first to the president, and the president came back with the first objection, which was on the sequence of elections. The National Assembly worked on this, sent it back to the president, and it took more than a month for the president to come back to say he has observed typographical errors. I think that these are the issues that give the impression that the presidency is not anxious to see a new electoral regime in place. We did see that also play out in the lead up to the 2015 elections, where former President Jonathan had the amendments to the Electoral Act, didn't sign it, or when he signed it, he hid it under his cupboard, and we didn't know until after the elections that he had signed the bill or the proposed amendments to the Electoral Act that guided the 2015 general elections. So there is a concern here that each time an incumbent is in office, there is concern about whether amendments are made that address concerns that are arising from the lessons learned from the previous elections. And I think that on both sides, there needs to be some blame taken, which is the blame that the urgency of passing and bringing into effect an electoral regime, an electoral law that addresses lessons learned from the previous elections are not been put in place. So
Mr. Nwanko, if I may quickly come in here, it does appear to me that some of the errors are beyond typographical errors. They are construction errors. They are errors in cross-referencing. And the president did right to say, for the avoidance of doubt, neither the Constitution nor any written law allows a president or governor to whom a bill is forwarded by the legislature to edit, correct or amend or in any manner alter the provisions of any of such bill to reflect appropriate intent before assenting to saying, and the president is asking the National Assembly to do this quickly so that it can be signed. I mean, can anybody blame the presidency for it? Because each time and time again, it does point out errors in drafting, errors in construction, errors in fundamental reference of the Electoral Act and the nation's constitution. Isn't that a major factor?
No, I totally agree with the president in his observations, and don't make, when I say typographical and interpretation errors, it clearly is on the same force with what the president is saying. My point is that there are political calculations, even on the part of the National Assembly, from the part of civil society who've been pushing for electoral amendment laws to be in place well ahead. These proposals for our suggestions for Electoral Act amendment have been on since the end of the elections in 2015. Now, it's taken 3 years for you to even continue to be talking about Electoral Act amendments a few months to an election, shows that there has been political calculations, both on the part of the National Assembly members, but also on the part of the other politicians who may be in the executive, who are calculating in terms of how amendments to the Electoral Act will affect their own political future. And I think that that's where the challenge is. But beyond that, much more fundamentally shown is the fact that in this country, it is surprising that amendments to laws or even proposal of laws is left entirely in the hands of the legislature. There is no government in the world that succeeds if it doesn't have a legislative agenda.
All right. So, sorry, Mr. Nwanko, we need to take this break. Sorry to cut you there. But when we come back, I'll allow you to land on that thought, and I'll get the reaction of Elijah Med Gulak. He's also a lawyer. But we'll come back after this break. Everyone, stay with us.